Before getting into the long history of this medical practice, we first have to understand the concept of vaccination. How do vaccines work exactly? Vaccination is the administration of a controlled type of virulent microorganism strain into a person's body. Vaccines familiarize your immune system, which makes antibodies to defend your body against harmful invaders with a particular pathogen so that it will know what to do if you become infected with that pathogen in the future. In other words, by administrating this controlled virus, our immune system is training itself on how it can successfully kill and defeat the virus. Therefore, after you are given a vaccine, you do not contract the wild virus. This is also how people who contract certain diseases do not acquire the same condition again. Now that we know what vaccines are and how they work, we can get into the modern vaccines development and history. Early stages of vaccination were first created in the 15th century, between 1400 to 1500, to protect people against smallpox, a lethal virus that killed billions of people worldwide. An unknown Buddhist monk started this early vaccination on a mountain named Omeishan in China. It took form in a method known as variolation, specifically, a type of variolation called nasal insufflation. It was administered by blowing powdered smallpox material, usually scabs, up the nostrils. After the monk realized that the procedure seemed to be effective in combating smallpox, it was spread quickly throughout Asia, then the Middle East, and Africa. European travelers and missionaries in these nations like India and Istanbul were exposed to these different medical practices and eventually brought them to Western Europe in the 1700s. And soon enough, nasal insufflation evolved into a more Western practice. Doctors in Europe would take the material of smallpox victims into healthy patients by 5 or 6 scratches on the arm. This form of variolation was remarkably effective in combating smallpox and praised for the savings of many populations. Unfortunately, there was still a fatality rate of 3% for those exposed to this method of variolation. This posed a problem. For example, King George III lost a son to the procedure, as did many others. Because of this, English physician Edward Jenner decided to create the first vaccine. He first got the idea when hearing dairy maids never get smallpox due to their exposure to cowpox. Cowpox is in the same family as smallpox but infects cows instead of humans. When a virus infects an unknown host, such as cowpox infecting a human, the effects are less deadly on the host. Once Jenner realized this, he decided to test a theory about whether the cowpox virus could protect the human body from smallpox like the direct variolation method. In 1796, Jenner tried this on a young 8-year-old he knew named James Phipps. He gave Phipps the cowpox virus administered by 5 scratches on his arm and then did the same with the smallpox virus 2 months after the cowpox. The boy did not develop smallpox. Jenner soon tested this with many other people to prove his new findings and concluded the first ever vaccine to cure smallpox. So how did Edward Jenner's discovery benefit the current world? Why are vaccines so important and effective? Well, since Edward Jenner's discovery, immunizations have prevented many people worldwide from death. For example, while the creation of the smallpox vaccine did not wholly eradicate the smallpox virus at the time, it did wipe out much of the virus from developed areas and stopped many smallpox epidemics. Vaccines are now efficiently used worldwide and are encouraged to be administered for the livelihood of all people. It can be considered one of the most significant and successful medical advancements in modern civilization. However, since the recent pandemic, the topic of vaccine essentialness has emerged, and the number of people against vaccinating has increased. People often bring up the vaccine's safety and the extent of how well researched they are. But unlike what these many people say, vaccines do not cause autism, weaken the immune system, cause allergies or any other conditions, or contain any ingredients that cause harm. Of course, there are still some minor side effects of getting an immunization, for example, a sore arm or mild cold, but I assure you it is better than getting the flu or another dangerous virus. Thankfully, we are living in a time when this pandemic's chaos is decreasing, And the number of people getting COVID vaccines is on the rise. Is it effective? Probably. Yes. Just hope Bill Gates does not put a microchip in your brain when you get immunized. That would be very bad. Also, here are the sources I used to research the history of vaccines and smallpox. Hopefully, I do not get points off this time for forgetting to cite my sources.